Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us do not comply. Turn off the news, turn off the TV. It's time to think, get off your knees. We tried to warn loved ones, oh did we try? We tried to save lives, but we were denied. Sadly we failed and many of them died. We were kicked to the side, we did not hide. We took to the streets, we would not comply. Our conscience told us this was the world's largest lie. At first we were few, but we shortly grew. Melbourne streets saw sights that had never been seen. We fought for our rights, for all to be free. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. We were locked out of cafes, our families withdrew. No Christmas, no birthdays, no celebrations we knew. We were germs, enemies, a danger to you. You watched the counts on mainstream news. No further would you look, we were all cooked. Deluded, brainwashed, segregation we lived through. Whilst you lived your life without any clue. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not give up the Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us do not comply.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mantra Moments. I'm Donna. Tonight we have Mike Stone joining us again, and he will be talking about his relationship with Priscilla Presley and Lisa Marie. So let's welcome Mike. Welcome,
Hello.
Mike.
Hi,
How
nice
are
to
you?
see you. Yes,
Yes, you too. You too. It's good to have you back.
thanks.
So let's hear all about you and Priscilla and Lisa. How did you meet?
We actually met maybe 3 or 4 times for only like a few seconds each time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe back in 1972, maybe.
Yes.
Or maybe before that. When she was first married, I think her and Elvis went to Hawaii for their honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
And Elvis's karate instructor, a guy named Ed Parker, is from Hawaii. And he sponsored an event in Hawaii, and he took a team from the continental United States, 12 guys. I was one of the team members there. And then we competed against a 12-man team from Hawaii. So while we were there competing, he invited Elvis and Priscilla to come to the event. Of course, they came a little bit later because, the crowd would have gone crazy and not disrupted the entire event. So they came maybe the last half hour or so of the event. I didn't get to meet her then, but I did see her. So that was the first time I actually saw her. The next time was 68, yeah. Then a guy named Phil Spector, who's a very prominent record producer called the Spector Wall of Sound. I was working as a bodyguard for him for off and on for a few years. and RCA, who did the recordings for Elvis. Elvis was in the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas performing, and RCA invited Phil Spector to come there. And so Phil took his wife, Veronica, who was the lead singer for the Ronettes, the song Be My Baby, which is a very famous song. And so we went to Las Vegas, and after the show, we had gone backstage to meet Elvis, and walking to Elvis's dressing room, we stopped along the way to meet other people as we went into the dressing room. So there was a moment someone introduced me to Priscilla outside of the main dressing room, and I just said hello, and that was like, a 5-second greeting. So that was the first time I actually met her. Then about a year later, I guess, one of my friends who is sponsoring a martial arts event in Orange County, California, and he invited me to attend, and he also invited Priscilla and Joni Esposito, who was the wife of Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager. We're not invited together. We went separately, and I didn't know that she was going to be, or she knew that I was going to be there. So when I was there, he called me from the bleachers. I just went up to sit and watch the event, and there were guys fighting or competing on the main floor. And he called me to the head table to introduce me to the audience. And then after we had done that, he whispered over and said, "Oh, that the two girls up front, that's Priscilla Presley." So I thought he was talking about the blonde girl because I had forgotten the color of her hair when I met her. So I was thinking, "Oh, that's the blonde girl. She's pretty." And I said, "Yeah, I like the color of her hair." And he said, "No, no, that's not Priscilla. The brunette is Priscilla. That's Joe Esposito's wife." So we were just standing maybe about 5 or 10 feet behind them, and they were watching this particular match. And during the match, the two fighters were being aggressive, and they kind of fought, but ran out toward her direction where they were standing outside of the ring. And when they ran outside, she backed up and really threw herself pretty much right into my arms. And I caught her, and I caught her whole weight because she really would have collapsed and nearly took me to the ground with her. And I struggled to hold her up and I was thinking just for a moment, I said, "Man, she's pretty heavy for a tiny person, because she was so small." So, and then when I stood her up and I said hi, and there was another time. Then, not long after that, we went to the, I think, 68 International Karate Championships held by Ed Parker again. And we had there was about one side of a 40-foot stage was what's called ringside. And we were all sitting there, Chuck Norris, myself, a bunch of the top martial arts people, Alan Steen, Pat Burleson, Joe Corley, and a bunch of others. But as we were sitting there, we're all sitting in the same line. So Alan Steen leaned forward and said, "Hey, Mike." So I leaned forward and said, "Yeah, what?" So I leaned forward to look at him, and he says, "I want you to meet Priscilla." And she was just like 2 seats down from me, sitting with somebody else. So and then Priscilla looked at him and then looked back at me, and I said, "Hi." And that was it. So now the event was over. I was talking to a guy named Dick Dale. Dick Dale and the Surfers. He's a left-handed guitar player that had this really unusual surfing sound of playing the guitar. So he was very well known. So I was talking to him and his wife because he was married to a Polynesian girl who danced at one of the Hawaiian shows. So we're talking, and all of a sudden, Priscilla just walked right into our conversation and just joined us. And I didn't know her other than just saying hello just for a second. And I didn't know that she knew Dick already. So she just walked into the conversation and just started talking. And I looked at Dick and he looked at me and kind of like, "Wow, who's this? Who's this weird person?" Just walked right into our conversation. So, but I soon learned. He said, "Oh, hi, Stella. And then you met Mike Stowe." "Oh, yeah, I just met him a few minutes ago." And so now we started talking. She said, "Oh, so what are you guys talking about?" And I go like, I don't know. I was talking about lions. So he apparently lived in Orange County and had a permit to have lions on his property. So
Oh,
he had
wow.
4 female lions. And I was always interested in cats, big cats. So we were just talking about that, and she was saying, "Oh, that's really interesting." So Jerry Schilling, who became a very good friend of Priscilla over the years, he stopped by and said, "Oh, Scylla, we have to get going," because this was after the tournament. People were leaving the arena already, so they were slowly phasing out. But we stayed there to talk a little bit. And then when Jerry came in, he says, "Scylla, we have to go now." So said, "Okay." So I said, "Bye." So then when she left, Dick and I are talking, and I said, "Man, that was kind of a weird. She's kind of a weird person, you know." And he said, "Yeah, that was strange. I've never. I mean, I knew her from before, but for her to just enter a conversation like that, that was pretty bizarre." And then he goes, "Mike, I think she likes you." I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah." So no sooner did he say that, then she's about 50 feet away, exiting the arena floor, and she stops and turns back and she yells, "Mike Stone, good night." And I'm going like, "God, she really is weird." So for her to do that, he says, "I told you she likes you." So there were a couple other occasions, but Chuck Norris and I were very good friends, and we competed together, never against each other. And he had a school up in Sherman Oaks, and I used to go visit him, and he'd come down to my school, and we would do a reciprocal thing every now and then. So I went up to his school that night, and I walked in, and I saw Priscilla taking the class, and I go like, "Oh, gee, that's funny. Chuck never mentioned that she was taking lessons." I knew that she was taking it with Ed Parker, Elvis's instructor, for a while. And then she had wanted to find another instructor. So Ed Parker suggested uh, Chuck Norris because he lived close by in the valley. It's close to Beverly Hills. So she apparently went and took classes there. So after the class was over, I waited because Chuck invited me out. We were going to have dinner and everything and just talk because we were doing a lot of things together with different events. So, but Priscilla kept waiting around, and she had Joni Esposito again. The blonde lady was with her. And they kind of waited until pretty much Chuck was kind of hustling everybody out so that we could leave to go have dinner. So he says, "Okay, good night, everybody." And then she says, "Oh, where you guys going?" And he says, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, are you guys going somewhere?" And Chuck said, "Yeah, we'll probably just go out here. We haven't had dinner yet," because he was teaching most of the classes in the evening. So he said, "Yeah, we'll probably just go out and get something to eat like that." And she says, "Oh, do you mind if we join you?" So again, I was like, wow. So Chuck said, "Yeah, I guess so. Mike, is it okay?" I said, "Yeah, fine." So he was closing up, and he had parked his car in the back of the dojo, in the back of the school. So we walked outside waiting for him to close up, and he did. And as he closed up, he walked around because he was going to drive the car. And I reached to grab the back seat of the car door for her and Joni to go in. And then Chuck and I would sit up front. Well, as soon as I opened the door on the passenger side, uh, Joni rushed right past me and said, "Thank you," and went like that. And I'm looking around like, what? So Joni ran in to sit in the front seat. So I'm looking like that, and Chuck just sat down, and I went like, and I look in the back, and Priscilla went like this. She looked at me and went like, she tapped the seat of the car, like,
Oh,
come and sit here. I went like, oh my, what the hell is going on?
yeah.
So Chuck says, "Okay, you guys ready to go?" So I jump in the back seat, and we didn't drive very far. It was right on Ventura Boulevard somewhere. So we went. It was called the Tiki Club. It was like a Polynesian looking place. And so we went in, and the first thing we did was we ordered the Mai Tai, and then we were going to order like a sandwich or something like that. So when we went to sit down, uh, Chuck went in first. So again, the girls had already made up their mind who they were going to pair off with because they already probably had a plan. By the way, as soon as an opportunity arose, Joni would get next to Chuck,
Yeah.
which left me with Priscilla. So Joni snuck in right away before I could do anything, and it's one of these curved booth things.
Mhm.
So we all had to sit in, but had to go in pretty much single file. So Chuck went in first, and then Joni went in, and then Scylla went in, and then I was left to go in last. So we're sitting there, and then Priscilla sat quite far away from Joni, not really, like not a foot and a half apart, but maybe two body lengths apart. So there was a space between Chuck and her, and Priscilla and I, actually pretty much sitting on the opposite ends of this curved booth. So we just sitting there talk, and then we started to talk to each other first. Then all of a sudden, the conversation just started to center around us. And she said, "Oh, you know, uh, I always was thinking about taking karate lessons from you." And I said, "Oh, why was that?" And she said, "Well, Ed Parker."
That's your phone?
Are you okay?
It's not my phone.
I think we're having a call here somewhere.
You've lost your phone.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Are you
Good.
are you there?
All good.
Okay. So anyway, we just talking, and she said, "Oh yeah." Oh, I have to apologize. I don't know who's calling. It's not my phone.
That's okay, Mike. That's okay.
So anyway, so we sat there and started talking, and she was asking about karate lessons, and she said, "Oh, I'd like to maybe take karate lessons with you." And I said, "Oh, why would you want to do that?" And she said, "Oh, because Elvis talked a lot about you because of his instructor, Ed Parker, who was a very good friend."
Oh,
Wow. I think whoever's calling doesn't want me to talk about this.
maybe move the phone away. Someone take the phone. Oh,
Yes.
are you on the phone, Mike? You're not on the
I'm
computer.
sorry?
Are you on the phone, not the computer?
Now, where do we
No.
get back on?
Are you there now?
Yeah, we can see you. We can see you too, Charlene.
No, okay. I
Yeah.
couldn't see you. The thing went
Can-
back to.
Can you?
Okay,
you tell us,
I want my 3 minutes back. No, I'm kidding.
Can you tell us when you started realizing that you had feelings towards each other?
Well, definitely not at that point. So what happened was I kept refusing that evening. I kept refusing to say anything about taking karate lessons because she lived up in Beverly Hills and I was in Orange County. So that's about a 70-mile drive one way. And she apparently said that she has never driven on the freeway by herself. So I said, "Oh, then, first of all, I would never, even if I was going to take lessons from me, I'd never drive that far."
Right.
So I said, why would you drive that far to take lessons? And she goes, "Oh, because you came well recommended. Elvis really admires what you've done, and Ed Parker talks about you all the time because you're both from Hawaii." So I said, "No." And then she said, "Could I just get your number and call you, and maybe sometime would it be okay if I watch the class?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can watch the class." So I gave her my number that night, and then maybe 3 or 4 days later, I was teaching a class on the floor in the afternoon, and she had called. But we have a policy that when I'm on the floor teaching a private lesson, not to disturb me. So the student that answered the phone said, "Oh, Mr. Stone, there's a lady on the phone." I said, "Well, you know that I'm teaching a class, so I can't talk to anybody right now. Have her call back." And he said, "Oh, it's Priscilla Presley." And I was far removed from the phone, but I guess she could hear me when I said, "I don't care who it is, just tell her to call back, please." So about 15, 20 minutes later, when I was finished with the class, she called back and she was offended. She said, "I heard what you said." I said, "What did I say?" "Well, when I called, you said, I don't care who she is, just have her call back when the class is over." I said, "I didn't mean any disrespect, but we had a policy not to interrupt me while I'm having a private lesson. So that's the only reason." And she says, "Oh, yeah, okay, I guess it's all right." So she said, "Is it all right if I come down to watch a class?" I said, "Sure." She said, "When do you have class?" So I give her the schedule. And she goes, "Oh, okay, but I've never driven down there, so I have to have somebody drive me." I said, "Fine." So I think 3 or 4 days later, maybe on a Thursday or Friday, it must have to be a Friday night. So she came down and watched the class. And she brought another girl this time. It was Nora Fink. I think it's uh, Fink is one of the bodyguards or friends of Elvis. And anyway, it's his wife. And she was visiting with Priscilla then in California. So then they came, and we normally on a Friday night, we have instructors night. So after we finish the last workout, we go to a pizza parlor right next door, and we have pizza and salads and stuff like that as the last class of the week for a group class. So she said, "Do you mind if we join you there?" So I said, "Yeah, I guess so." So she came along with that, and we stayed there for about an hour and a half. And then she left and I left. And then now she called and said, "Oh, I think I'd be interested in taking classes with you." I said, "But really, I think it's a bit far for anybody to drive." And and the reason I really didn't want to do it as well, honestly, was because I knew she was taken from Chuck Norris, and he's a very good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And with what happened the first evening, I didn't want him to feel that I'm trying to steal a student of his by
Yes.
allowing her to come. So I really tried to discourage her from driving that far because I knew that she was taking lessons from Chuck, and we were very close friends. So that was another issue that I was having with accommodating her that way. But she kept on saying, "No, I think it'll be all right. I'll talk to Mr. Norris myself and explain that I would prefer to do your style because what Priscilla was good at is she was a good dancer. She apparently had done a lot of dancing before we had met, and that because she was a good dancer, she had good timing and rhythm. And what she liked to perform in martial arts are the katas or the forms. And the traditional forms of the Korean style, which is Chuck Norris's system, is not very appealing to the eye. It's very robotic, very step by step. It doesn't have a smooth flow like many of the Chinese systems that they have circular motions, and there's some rhythm and different rhythms and timing. So it's a lot more like a dance than just robotically doing. So she wanted to learn that. And she did really very well. So I have to give her credit for several things. But one, she was a very good student. Uh, she never showed any signs of being arrogant, conceited, privileged, or elite. I mean, I never gave her any private lessons. It was all group classes that she took. And she carried her own weight. She even took off her, I think she was a green belt under one system and brown belt under another system. So when she started with me, she wore just a white belt. So I give her a lot of credit from being humble enough to just start all over in a new system. So she was a very good student. But just like anything, as time progressed, she started because she was coming to class. First, it was only twice a week, and then she did it 4 times a week, and then it was now 5 times a week. And by the time she had just, I think, not long before that, maybe February or March of 72, I think she was legally separated.
Mhm.
So she was coming down much more often and uh, spending a lot more time there. Like on the weekends, now come down on the weekends. And the one thing that we shared that we both enjoyed was horseback riding. So she apparently was given a couple horses when she was in Nashville. And now that they were separated, she had wanted her horse and another horse that she had to be driven out to Los Angeles or to Orange County. So that was almost like a daily exercise that we'd go horseback riding and took care of the horses and had it boarded close by to the dojo. So just one thing led to another. Um, and then, yeah, then we became um, romantically inclined. And listen, men are dogs.
Okay.
Men are no, they are men. I mean, it's if you're as young as I was with a woman as beautiful as she was that
Yeah.
paid attention to you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm in fact it became kind of like a joke among my friends in the martial arts because now she started to come and attend some of our major events. She would come to them all the time. So she got to meet a lot of the champions and friends of mine. And you know how guys are, right? I mean, they go like, "Wow, Mike, you're so lucky." And I was the first to admit. I said, you, "Absolutely, I can't even believe it." In fact, at one time when Chuck and I talked, and he said, "I think she's really interested in you." I said, "Oh, come on, that's nonsense. How can you be interested in a poor guy like me? I have no good looks. I'm not wealthy. I'm not famous." And she's with the wealthiest, the most handsome, the most famous guy on the planet. Please give me a break. So even though a part of my ego wanted to believe it,
Yes.
in my heart, I'm not stupid, but still I'm a man. If you have an opportunity to be with a woman like that, who would not take that opportunity? And the the sad thing about it for me was that at that time my marriage wasn't good because I was traveling everywhere from 1964 to in the mid early 70s, like that. I've been gone all the time. Almost every weekend I'm either having an event or I'm attending an event by friends of mine that are sponsoring it. So when I do it, they come to my event. When they do it, I go to their event and support them with my students. So it's just like an unwritten code that you do that. But now you're gone almost every weekend of the year. And then I'm teaching from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. So there goes the entire day. So, and I don't want to call it a regret because in a sense it's not. People have asked me, do you ever regret the decisions you made and the time that you spent with Priscilla and Lisa? And the answer is absolutely not. No regrets whatsoever. And in fact, when I did write the book, I wrote it for several reasons because I wrote it so many years after the relationship. But there were certain things that happened at that time between Lisa and Priscilla. Now, I've never followed them after we separated. But of course, they're so well known, they're so famous that everything they do gets recorded. It's on, everybody talks about it. It's always on the news.
Mike, how long were you together?
Total time about 4 years.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So till about 1975, something like that. So, but it was, I was really, can you see?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the screen went blank. Maybe,
No, I can see you well. It's
okay.
fine. It's fine, Charlene.
Yeah. Okay,
Now,
there you are. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
that's
Um,
okay.
but I never regretted the moment. I learned so much about myself because now if I'd like to share just some ideas at people, maybe you don't have to even ask me any questions. I will probably answer a lot of them. But a lot of people are not nice. There's a lot of wonderful people on the planet. But
Yes.
in that business, people are not nice. It's a um, very competitive industry, the movie industry, Hollywood. And there were many negative things said about me. And for those, I accept because for the most part, it's the truth. So they said I left my wife for her. Yes, that's somewhat true, but that was already ending. When she actually, even before she even came down, we were already talking about being separated. So people don't know that, but it doesn't matter. Still, it looks bad, and it is bad because I had two young children. So that I never liked. But the thing I liked about being with her and Lisa was the same age as my oldest daughter. In fact, my
Mhm.
oldest daughter is about 4 months older than Lisa. So the time that I spent with Lisa and not with my own children, I really appreciated that opportunity to be with that age or a girl that age. And I never tried to be her father. I may be a dog as a man, but when it comes to another man's child, you cannot substitute, or another person's mother.
Yes.
Can't be substituted. And don't even try. You got to be really not very bright at all to try to take the place of someone. It cannot be done. So the best you can be is do the best that you can for yourself. Just be honorable, respectful, treat them with dignity. And I've always done that with Lisa, always. So Lisa and I had a very good relationship. There's a lot of times when we went walking, if we go to the park or we go to an amusement park or something like that, she would always, when I'm walking, she would always walk up to me and grab my hand while we're
Mm.
walking. And I would do it on purpose, that I would walk ahead of her to see if she would catch up, to me and hold my hand because she wanted, security and to have to walk with somebody. So a lot of those little things were very important. I remember one time, this is a really funny story. We're having some, uh, Lisa was going through some tough times because every time Lisa would go to Memphis and she would come back, she would be very tired and tired because Elvis would be up all times of the day, but uh, I mean, at night he's up. So when
Mm.
he's up, Lisa's up. So she doesn't have a chance to sleep. So every time she comes home from the weekend or something with Elvis, she looks horrible. Like she got bags under her eyes and she looks terrible. So, but when she comes back, all she's thinking about is her father. So,
Mm.
1 second. Are there people in the waiting room want to ask questions?
Not ask questions, join the podcast.
To join the podcast.
No,
So this is a private conversation.
no, there's people watching.
Yeah, there's people in the waiting room, Donna.
No, not here. There's not.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
Yeah. So
Oh, I
whenever Lisa came back, she was always tired and everything, and the fact that she was with her father made it that um, she had the run of the house in Nashville.
Right. Yes.
So when she came back, she still thought she had the run of the house. But Priscilla was a
Mhm.
good mother because she really did try to keep her in line, discipline her and everything, keep her down to earth. Because when she went there and she came back, she knew that she could get away with anything. So when she came
Mhm.
back, she would always come home with a slight attitude, and we have to make a slight adjustment. So the adjustment was one night, we're getting ready for dinner, and Priscilla asked Lisa to join, and she says no because she was in the room uh, listening to Elvis's records on her little phonograph. So she was on the floor sitting down, uh, listening to his records. So Priscilla went in and said, Lisa, we'll have dinner in a few minutes. Just wash up and everything before you come to dinner. And she goes, no, I'm not going. She said, what? She says, I'm not going. I'm not hungry. And she goes, no, never mind. We're just going to sit down together. And she goes, no, I don't want to. I just want to listen to records. So she said, oh, okay. So now she comes to the kitchen and she goes, Mike, can you do me a favor? I said, what is it? She said, Lisa won't come to dinner. So can you go and ask her? I said, well, I don't think I'm the person to ask her. And she goes, no, just, maybe just from a male authority figure type thing, just invite her. So I said, okay. So I went back to the room and she was in. I said, hi, Lisa, how you doing? Good. I said, oh, what do you listen to? My dad? I said, oh, fantastic. He sings really nice. Yes, my dad is the best. I said, yes, he is. But listen, do you think we can take just a short break so we can go to dinner, then you can come back and listen to your dad? And she says to me, you're not my father. I said, yes, I know that, Lisa. I can never be your father. I can never be that handsome. I can never be that talented. For sure, I'm not your dad. But maybe just join us, not for me, join us for your mother. And once I said that, she said, okay. So now
Oh.
and we went to dinner. So that was the very thing. So before we went, she said this. She said, you're not my dad. I said, I know I'm not. And I said, but can you come to dinner? She says, no. And if I'm not going to do it, I said, okay, I tell you what, you have your dad's number? And she goes, yes. I said, let me call your dad. Why? No, let me call your dad. And I don't think your dad would appreciate that you're doing this to your mother. You're misbehaving and you're not listening to your mom. If you have your dad's number, give it to me. I'll call him right now. Okay, okay, Mickey. Okay, I'll come in now. And then she put away the recorder and she got up to join us. A little child psychology.
Yeah,
It's
it just
good
shows
when you're
it
a child.
shows the humanity of her, because when you think of Lisa Marie, you don't think of her as a little, just an everyday little girl.
Oh,
Just
absolutely. And
yeah,
that what was so special during that time.
yes,
That's why I feel so blessed. Because after that time, from the time of Elvis's death, I think was a major shift in her overall attitude on life. I think everything changed. So I wasn't there at the time. When she left, she was, I think, maybe 6 or 7. But by the time she was 9, when the time Elvis died, um, I think Priscilla had sent her to a school in Europe, sent her to a private school, then to Scientology. So even as I was hearing this, I was thinking, nah, maybe that's not the best choice that I would make. But who am I to say?
yeah,
But I could see there was a change, a shift. Also, there was a shift in Priscilla. I want people to appreciate and understand that the opportunity she had in her life, any woman, like any man, me being with Priscilla, any woman that would like to take Priscilla's place would jump in at a heartbeat. No question. Slavery or not, confinement or not. And she already knew that this is not what she wanted to be. Because apparently on their wedding night, she got pregnant. 9 months later, she had a child. So that means from just getting married, you're a mother, and now where are you going to
yes,
go? Where are her ideas about herself being in Hollywood, being a model, being an actress? All of those ideas are now out the window. They're gone. So when people say, well, she's so stupid for giving up Elvis, she's so selfish. Time out here. Who are you to say? You know, it's that
yeah,
means your life is over if you're going to remain in that situation, no matter who he is, how handsome, how wealthy, how famous. It's not. It's people can talk all they want, but unless you're in someone else's shoes, shut up.
yes, that's right.
It's
I
not the same.
agree.
So,
So was your relationship loving? Did you have a loving relationship? Come on,
well,
give us a bit
let me
nitty.
let me answer it this way.
You're just
I
being
was
so nice. I want some emotions, some nitty gritty. Let's get into this.
Yeah.
Come on,
Well, there was
humble.
I had an opportunity to write a book
Mm,
very long ago, and it was at Random House. And I actually went to Random House. I went to New York for 3 days with a literary agent, a friend of mine named Elliot, that is a literary agent for people who write scripts and stuff in Hollywood. So he took me there, and we had put together a 15-page outline of chapters for the book. So when we were talking with them, everything seemed okay, except one thing they asked me. This was in New York. They said, well, Mike, this is all great. You guys went vacationing in Hawaii. You guys went here and there. You guys did this, all these karate activities, some fancy places. But there's nothing in here about your sex life.
oh, I didn't
And I
mean
said,
that. I
huh? What is
didn't
it?
mean that. Sorry.
So
Yeah, go on.
I said, you think it's an accident? There's nothing in there. And he says, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah,
They
no,
said,
I
no,
didn't.
but you have to write something about that. So now the guy tells me, this is a deal breaker. If you don't write now, this is the honest truth. They offered me $500,000 to go away with a writer of my choice, which I already selected a guy that writes under a female name, to go away for 1 month anywhere in the world with him and just get a tape recorder and just start from beginning to end and have him write it. Now, this guy that I selected was a very he wrote a novel called The Silver Slipper, and he writes under a female name,
Mhm.
but he's a writer from Texas. Anyway, he ended up dying. but I didn't do the deal. They said it's the deal breaker. So they said, well, think about it another day. We came back the next day. I said, no, I'm not going to write it. They said, you know what? You're giving up. In fact, the agent, Elliot, said, Mike, to get $500,000 upfront against royalties, obviously, but to get that much money upfront, they really want this book, but they need this chapter. I said, then it's a deal breaker. So we walked away from that deal. So I was accused later on in our relationship. They said, Mike Stone has made nothing but money off of the Elvis's name. So I challenged, one time I was on a podcast and I said, okay, if everybody believes I've taken advantage of Elvis's name and that, oh yeah, he's done articles and this and that, I said, and even wrote books about Elvis. So at that time, there were quite a few books came out, obviously after Elvis's death and the divorce and everything. So when I was on the podcast, I said, okay, I challenge anyone to find any book that has ever been written that I wrote the book that I benefit financially. Find me that book and I'll give you $10,000. And I made that honestly because I knew there's no such thing. I never wrote a book about our relationship, ever. And it took me that long to write this book. And this book is not so much about our relationship as it is, I felt I was so blessed to have them at the best time of their life. Priscilla was so naturally beautiful. She didn't have to have makeup. I took several pictures of her without any makeup, and she's absolutely stunning.
Yes.
People would turn their heads just because she's a beautiful girl, not because they know who she is. In fact, at the time that we were dating, many of the places we went, nobody recognized her as who she was because she never dressed up like she did for Elvis. She was just very natural and plain, no makeup, but absolutely stunning. People would look at her just because she's beautiful and, and wondering, what is she doing with this idiot? That's probably what they were saying.
No.
But yeah,
You were quite good looking too, Mike, back in your day.
Yeah, thank you. But there are so many things that she didn't get credit for.
Yes.
At that time. And you have to realize that she was trying to discover herself as well.
Yeah.
The reason she got the divorce was to get away so she could be free to explore all possibilities for her life. And even I was not naive enough to know when we first got together, we started talking, marriage was never a part of the equation at any time.
Yeah.
It was never something that was on the table at all. So I had no illusions of what the relationship, that it was going to end at some point. But I already knew from the very beginning that she was very down to earth, very humble, a wonderful, really a nice person. So for that, I am so grateful. And then she did the best she could with Lisa and what Lisa had to deal with. So no, it was an absolutely incredible situation. But I don't think anybody can really appreciate the things that she had to go through. Now, even when we were there, we pretty much hid from everybody. Well, we kind of did it naturally. So I think the color is going off on this or something. So I think we did it naturally because where I live in Orange County, California, we were already 70 or 80 miles from Hollywood. And where my school was, my business, my friends. So actually, Priscilla, I give her a lot of credit because she had to now adapt to my lifestyle.
Right.
Because in a sense, she was living with my environment. Now, she didn't have any friends of her own other than the wives of the people that belonged to Elvis. So she didn't have any close friends of her own. So all of my friends became her friends. And she was such a lovely person that she made friends very easily. And they really liked and enjoyed her. So she got along with everybody. Like I said, even as a student, she never had any pretense about who she was or about her skills and ability. She went in and she worked as hard as anybody. In fact, harder, because I think she wanted to prove that she was normal. So I give her credit for that. So the initial stages of our relationship was all done in Orange County. So we were not involved in the Hollywood crowd. And she was just getting started. So after that, about a year into that, we were exposed to people. now she decided to test the surrounding areas. And Elvis wanted to make sure that Lisa had a gated home, so for her security. So of course we had to live up in Beverly Hills. So now I had to change my lifestyle.
Right.
We had to
Mhm.
be going from just a karate guy that's doing this and this. When we moved to Beverly Hills, I had to be the odd man out because now she opened up a clothing shop with Olivia Biz, who was her partner in Biz and Bull, which was a boutique shop that she made on Robertson Boulevard. So my life changed. Well, when my life changed, coming from Hawaii, a very simple lifestyle, I mean, it was horrible. I did not like that environment at all.
Right.
So when she started to get out, and when people realized that, okay, she's been out for a year, everybody knows she's Elvis's wife, she's on her own. So now some of the people that wanted to get with her had an opportunity to offer her things, make movies, do commercials and everything, which is what she wanted. So now the more she started to do that, the more alienated I felt, and I felt out of place because I
Mhm.
didn't like to think about, oh, you give me your number, I'll give you mine. Yeah, let's lunch together. That's all garbage. That's nonsense. And I didn't like that. I don't like people that are not sincere. So I was now caught in a world that she had to get into to do what she wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
in a world that I didn't like at all. So
Yeah.
I knew that this our relationship, it's time, the time is going to run its course. And I'm glad it did it in the way it did, very naturally, no angry, never, we never, listen, we never fought once. I'm not
Mm.
joking, never argued about anything. So a lot of people just can't understand it, but my lifestyle and upbringing, I'm free. I've always been free. I've always had that Hawaiian attitude and that mentality of freedom. So I was never going to be tied down that way. So as she started to get exposure and started to be out more with people, then she would come back and say, "Oh, somebody invited me to this cocktail party and this thing. So uh, can we go to it tonight?" And I said, "Well, maybe not. You go ahead by yourself." So slowly, just by refusing to go out, I kept pushing myself out of the opportunities to do that because she knew also who I was like. Like we went to Hawaii 3 or 4 times in our relationship, and the times we went, we was all Hawaiian things. It was not elite hotels. Not everything was. She had to take off her slipper coming to the house of my friends. The funniest thing about her was one time she tried to cook dinner for me in Marina Del Rey, and she was so proud about what she wanted to do to cook dinner for me one night. So we're at Marina Del Rey, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to cook something special for us." I said, "Oh, great. Okay." She said, "But don't come into the kitchen." I said, "All right." So I kind of stayed away and watched TV or something. And then all of a sudden, I smell like something's burning. So I started to see smoke in the kitchen, and I went like, "Holy crap!" I said, "Hey, everything okay in there?" And she goes, "Don't come in here." I said, "What's wrong?" "The rice is burned." "What, you cooking rice?" The thing that was funny is she got this Uncle Ben's rice, put it in a rice cooker, but didn't put any water. So
Oh no.
she ended up making like popcorn out of the rice
Oh,
grain. And it was burning and smell. And she started crying. And like, "Oh, I feel so." I said, "No, no, it's okay. I didn't know I had to put water." I said, "Was that that's the first time she ever tried to cook." So I felt,
oh.
but that was very that was special.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gorgeous. Mike, we've got a question here. I'd love
yeah.
to know whether Elvis was ever jealous of Priscilla's relationship with Mike.
If you consider that he put a contract on my life for $10,000, then I think he was a bit upset. Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So what happened with that?
I'm still alive, and I'm
Yes, yes.
82. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I answer that correctly? No. What do you mean? What
Hey,
happened? I'm good.
yeah, well, what happened? Why? What did he do? Who did
He
he
blamed
ask?
he blamed me for the breakup.
Yes.
Now, of course, if I were Elvis, I'd blame the other guy also. First of
Yes.
all, I'm better looking than he is. I am far more wealthier than he is. I'm
Yes.
definitely more famous than he is. So just by those three categories, of course, he's not a martial arts champion like I was. So just
Mm.
with those three categories, I have to just submit, like, yes, you're the king. Nope, I have no issue with that. But apparently his pride, if you want to call it that, could not take that this karate instructor stole my wife. First of all, it is impossible to steal another human being. Now, people
Yes.
actually talk like this, but we know how people think. Some people are not very aware. You cannot
Mm.
steal another human being. It is impossible. I was never charged for kidnapping, Priscilla. I never saw it anywhere. Didn't go to jail. So I think that was not true. I did not steal her. She came willingly. In fact, now if I say she pursued me, everybody would think this guy's out of his mind. But she made all of the advances to get to that position that she was. Now, the question I had initially was, why me? The question was, of all of the men on earth, other than Elvis, why me? Well,
Mhm.
I found the answer through several people and just through reason. Elvis was an absolute karate nut. He loved martial arts. Probably next, if he had a choice, maybe he would want to be a karate champion someday. That was his aim. Karate was his big thing. Ed Parker, who I knew very well from Hawaii, Ed Parker was his instructor. So all he ever heard from the time he went to Hawaii and saw me fight, and he was there to watch me fight. Apparently, Priscilla tells me later, when they went back to the hotel all night long until early morning, all he could talk about was Mike Stone. All he said was, wow, Ed Parker was right. This guy is unbelievable. This guy is courageous. He's an animal. He's aggressive. He's all. So now he's hearing this for several years. And by the time he hears, I'm the guy,
Mm.
oh my
Yes.
God. So he would never admit or take responsibility that, well, maybe I made some negative choices in my relationship with Priscilla that caused me to push her away. Could be, because it works both ways, and you
Yes.
both have to agree. So yeah, so it was, yeah, he was upset, but and there was a book I think somebody wrote the book that was written by the bodyguards was Elvis What Happened. It was when they were all being fired for the final time, when they all knew that he would not accept them back anymore,
Yeah.
is when they now went and printed this book called Elvis What Happened, and now they spilled the beans about drug, womanizing. They spilled everything, all the beans. So they were, I think, Red West, Sunny West, and Dave Hebler. Those three guys wrote the book, and that was a book that really was negative about Elvis's lifestyle and his temper and a lot of the negative things, drug addiction and stuff like that. So but yeah, it was something that obviously no man wants to admit that it's their fault their wife leaves them. So I can understand that absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to find, because I do have up here for you the website. Oh, I've put your website up. So there's Mike's website. I did also have for the book. Can't find it. Well, is it on your website, Mike? The book
Yes,
as
it
well?
is. But if they go to Amazon Books, I think I
Yes.
have 4 or 5 books. So if you just go under the author, I think they
Yeah.
will list the different books that are available on Amazon.
I don't know why it's not showing it. I've got 3 links here, but it won't show that one. Strange. Sorry, Mike.
The
Sorry.
universe is working against us today.
It is, because it didn't stream to Rumble either. It said,
Yeah.
someone said in the comments. Well, is there anything you'd like to say to finish this up? Because we're nearly out of time.
Yeah.
Is there anything special you'd like to say?
I just appreciate the opportunity. This happened so long ago. It's not even relevant in today's conversation on life. But I think the common denominator we all have as human beings is we all have relationships with people. And we have to accept responsibility for us being part of a relationship. So there's only three things happen to us in life. We're going to make choices. There's going to be results and outcomes from those choices. You're going to have experiences. And the most important thing is you're going to have relationships. And what you do in all of your relationships is everything that happens, there's no bad things that happen. Because everything that you consider bad or negative is just another way of allowing you to look at an aspect of yourself that you maybe were not willing to look at honestly. So the problem with most of us, we have a natural tendency to lie to ourselves all the time. Incessantly, we lie to ourselves. So if you're lying to yourself, you shouldn't be surprised if other people are lying to you. So if you are honest with yourself, you respect yourself, you love yourself in a healthy way, if you take care of your responsibility to yourself first, then you have the love, the respect, and the honor for other people. But if you can't do that with yourself and you don't love, respect, or honor who you are as a person and try to be the very best version of yourself, then you have issues anyway. So I think all relationships will allow you to take a good look at yourself because they may not always work out.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Beautiful.
welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Now, Mike, I just want to quickly say, if you don't mind, when you come on your next show, I do have to get off, but when your next show, can we say what you're going to be talking about, or should we leave it as a surprise?
Well, maybe a thing I've always been fascinated with and I love very much, and I'm learning so much more about it, is the UFO phenomena.
Yes.
I think in the next couple of years, a lot of things are going to be revealed that many people thought were conspiracies. And we're going to find out they were not. Because if you have a conspiracy, I don't know how they last several thousand years. So we're going to have to accept certain things. And we just have to start waking up.
Yes.
We've been asleep for so long.
Yeah, we have.
So maybe we can talk about UFOs.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Thanks for coming on, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Have a good week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, I forgot to take it off, Mike. I forgot to take him off. Okay. I'm sorry that Rumble hasn't worked again. I'll have to have a really good look and see why not. But thank you for tuning in, everyone. And if you'd like to buy my song, it is on Culture on Michael's Cafe Lockdown. Okay. Thank you. Have a great week. Bye.
Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us do not comply. Turn off the news, turn off the TV. It's time to think, get off your knees. We tried to warn loved ones, oh did we try. We tried to save lives, but we were denied. Sadly we failed and many of them died. We were kicked to the side, we did not hide. We took to the streets, we would not comply. Our conscience told us this was the world's largest lie. At first we were few, but we shortly grew. Melbourne streets saw sights that had never been seen. We fought for our rights, for all to be free. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. locked out of cafes, our families withdrew. No Christmas, no birthdays, no celebrations we knew. We were germs, enemies, a danger to you. You watched the counts on mainstream news. No further would you look, we were all cooked. Deluded, brainwashed, segregation we lived through, whilst you lived your life without any clue. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights. They would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us, do not comply.